Ghost in the Shell, Neo Tokyo, Mirror's Edge. These are the specific blend of inspirations that make up the retro-styled FPS, Sprawl. I knew about this game for some time, but I didn't play it right away. After being reintroduced to Sprawl through social media, I decided to rectify that mistake. Let me show you a crucial segment of my playthrough, one that captures an important turning point. From the beginning up to this moment, I've enjoyed my time, loving the gunplay and parkour, but I struggled to combine these elements effectively. Despite the times where I felt I was starting to understand the game on a technical level, I often fell short and struggled to maintain consistency. It especially didn't help that it's been a while since I've played a retro FPS like this. Let me show you a clip of when it clicked for me. High-speed combat chess is what the devs describe Sprawl as, and it couldn't be more accurate. When you slow everything down and line up the shot just right, it makes sense. Although my gameplay is sloppy, melding the gunplay with the parkour was tough, but I got it. Sprawl goes for a retro-futuristic cyberpunk style for its look, similar to the first Ghost in the Shell movie. Along with Akira, I see the visual inspiration from both movies. Sprawl starts you in the walled city, where the dilapidated buildings and the dark alleys effectively capture a gritty and grimy atmosphere. As you progress, you move through a factory that transitions from a rustic and industrial look to high-tech sophistication. This progression from episode to episode fully realizes the high-tech, low-life dystopian future the developers envisioned. Speaking of the developers, according to them, they wanted to go for a adrenaline-responsive OST with pulse-pounding industrial music. And in layman's terms, the music goes hard. I enjoyed the music frame 1 as I hit the main menu too. I can say with confidence that there isn't a single bad track, and I could definitely see myself listening to this outside of the game. Overall, I'd say the presentation of Sprawl is amazing, and the audio and visuals elevate the world perfectly. Just because Sprawl has a lot of doesn't mean that there isn't story. You play as Seven, a disgraced super soldier who chose to self-exile herself in search of penance for the sins she committed. Seven isn't allowed to have any sort of peace though. But Seven ends up getting help from a disembodied voice named Father, with the condition being for Seven to set him free. Besides the few interactions you have with other characters, you aren't told much directly. You don't even get to hear the inner thoughts of Seven either. If you want lore for the in-game world, you can find that through the load screens and the small screens with the QR codes on them. I'll use my favorite level as an example, Open Air Sickness. This place is an empty city with old buildings having old corporations on them that used to be there. The main population are stuck in the tiny apartments, which are part of an earlier level. I'll admit that I see the story as the weakest aspect of Sprawl, but I don't think the story needs to be no more prevalent than this. Adding more like cutscenes and dialogue would probably ruin the flow of the game. If the player seeks more of this world, it's there, and I was able to enjoy what's there. For what Sprawl has, the story works. Sprawl's combat is simple. Seven is able to utilize her cybernetic implant, Icarus, to run on the walls and slow down time. You also have a slide that you can combine with a jump to get more momentum. Throughout your journey, you will come across a decent selection of guns that range from dual handguns and SMGs to a railgun and even a shotgun that can not only destroy enemies with proper aim, but give you extra height in the air. Speaking of destroying enemies, if you get a kill using the weak points of the enemy, you get some health, adrenaline, and some ammo. Sprawl's high-octane gameplay mixed with the ability to slow down time to line up your shots just right feels so satisfying. In terms of level design in Sprawl, it's at its best when the arenas are confined and claustrophobic, or at least has a bunch of things to jump off of. Simply put, the more walls to run on to utilize my mobility, the more fun I had. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to have an open arena, but I felt more vulnerable when trying to evade enemy fire. When I was able to do the slide jumping consistently, it worked out a bit better. However, I felt like it just wasn't the same as the close quarters fighting. I'd say for sure that it doesn't ruin the game by any means. In fact, if we're talking about issues in general, Sprawl only had one that I encountered, and that dealt with the respawns. I think this could be easily fixed if you gave the player a small amount of iframes to escape and get moving. I'd say Sprawl is pretty close to being perfect, besides those moments with the respawns. And the best part is, there's more to the game besides the main campaign. After you beat Sprawl, you have a time trial mode as well as a horde mode that you can sink your teeth into. Both of these modes either have new maps associated with them or remixed old maps. Horde and time trial mode both have a lore reason for existing too, as this was how Seven trained when she was on the Unta. These modes are great, but I definitely prefer the horde mode. As much as I like going fast, I definitely enjoyed the endless amount of fighting I get to do. You can also re-experience the game's story on a harder difficulty, which is done by adjusting these sliders. You can affect the damage you deal, the damage you take, and how fast your adrenaline drains. I haven't personally done it myself, but I mean, hey, you sure can if you want. All in all, Sprawl is a sick movement FPS with a retro-futuristic aesthetic you must play. If you are interested in Sprawl yourself, you can get it for $14.99 normally, but I'd also recommend you get the soundtrack bundle, because like I said, that music is awesome. If you already played this wonderful FPS, you can A, play it again on a harder mode, or if you have Quake, you can play Sprawl 96. Sprawl 96 came out for the 1-year anniversary and it's free, so yeah, why not jump on it? Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one.